November 20th, Wednesday, November 20th. We are here for the Nevada Commission for the Reconstruction of the VNT Railway at the Carson City Community Center Robert Bob Kroll Boardroom, 9 o'clock a.m. We'll call this meeting to order. Could I get a roll call, please, tomorrow?
Chair Peterson,
Present.
Vice Chair Mitchell, Treasurer Cruz,
Here.
Secretary Hicks,
Here.
Commissioner Schmitter. We have a quorum.
All right. Thank you so much. And we'll just mark the others present as they arrive. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Commissioner Schmitter has joined us at 9:01. We just started, Michelle. With that, we will go ahead and move on to public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of this public body. Any public comment this morning? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 5 for possible action, approval of minutes of the October 23rd, 2024 meeting. Any comments, changes?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I just have one.
Leah, go ahead.
On page 4, number 12, it just says Treasurer Hicks instead of Secretary Hicks.
We know what's coming next year.
I want really badly for that to be right, but
Oh my God, that's funny. Okay, so we will fix that. Are there any other edits that anybody wants? Okay, anybody want to make a motion on this particular item?
Sure. I
Thank you.
move to approve the minutes of October 23rd, 2024 with the changes discussed on the record.
Excellent. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. All right. With that, we will move on to agenda item 5 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding the VNT Commission's statement of accounts payable checks paid October 1st through the 31st, 2024. The invoice listing for accounts payable checks total $66,161.99 for the month of October. Are there any questions or concerns on this particular item? Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
Sure. I move to approve the payable checks from 10/1 through 10/31/2024 as presented.
Thank you for that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this particular item? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. All right, with that, we will move on to agenda item 7 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding the adjusted VNT Commission's fiscal year 24-25 budget reports for the period ending October 31st, 2024. The comparative statement of adjusted revenue totals $1,177,000.94, with expenses totaling $295,421.21 for October 2024. And if we could let the record note, Clay has arrived, 9:04. He is here, so all 5 of us are present in the room. Clay, we're on agenda item 7 right now. Any questions on this one? Okay, anybody want to make a motion on 7?
I move to approve the presented budget reports.
Thank you, Leah. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on item 7? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. I am not seeing anybody from Casey Nealon on the screen. She is. Okay. Sherry, can you reach out to Suzanne and then we'll just move, we'll kind of go out of order. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so
Chairman, this is what
Yeah.
happens when you do 6 items in 3 minutes. People just aren't ready for it.
I want to apologize profusely for my efficiency with which I've run the meeting so far, or thus far.
This is government. It's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. um, okay. Well, with that, we'll come back to 8 and we'll move to 9. Okay, for possible action, number 9, discussion of possible action regarding proposed contract FY25-C004 with Wood Rogers, Inc. for on-call and required annual inspection services and reports for the US 50 bridge crossing, all culverts along the alignment, tunnel number 2 slopes and ditches, and the Overman embankment for a not-to-exceed amount of $7,550 effective through June 30th, 2025. I know Jim is not here right now. This is basically the same exact contract that we had for last year because we have the required annual inspections of the track and bridge and tunnel and all that good stuff. It is a little bit more money than last year, and I talked to Jim about that, or we exchanged some emails about that. It's just based on their costs have gone up, labor and otherwise. So that's why it's a bit more than it was last year. But if there are any questions on it, I'm happy to answer them. But this is sort of one of those mandatories that we have to do the annual inspection every year. So,
Dave, how
Yes.
much more was it from last year?
I feel like it's a couple thousand more. I think. Geez, does that sound right, Leah? Was it like 55 or was it 6,500 last year? And I don't have a computer, otherwise I would look that up for you. But yeah, it's a little bit more. I may have things in my head differently with the different inspections, but it is a little bit more than it was last year.
As is everything.
Yeah. Are there any other? Yeah, go ahead.
I guess the only question I had is, is there preference to go year to year just so that we can talk about the needs, or, because that was the one thing I thought when I was reviewing it was it would be nice if maybe there was like an auto renewal or something, but maybe for next time.
That's a good question. Jim asked me if we were going to, along those lines, also address whether or not we may need a maintenance on way, engineering supervisor, if we're going to bring that back or do some sort of a solicitation or select a company, because he was wondering about whether or not we would package it all together moving forward and do something along the lines of a multi-year. And I just said, well, I can't make that decision by myself, but that's something that we could discuss perhaps at the workshop retreat next year and figure out how to handle, because I hate doing these one-offs every year. And we might as well just lock something in. And I also feel like, unless I'm wrong, Mahela can correct me, of course, but I feel like these are professional services, so I don't know that we actually have to go through a formal RFP process. I think we can hire a consultant to perform this work, can we not? So that's something we could think about, I guess, and do a multi-year.
Yeah, that's true. We can
Okay.
do it. And also, I was able to check last year's contract, and it was not to exceed $5,030.
Oh, okay, I was
So we
close
did
with
go
my
up.
1,500. Okay, so
Okay.
thank you for looking that up. Yeah, so I think that's definitely something we should talk about. What do we want to do long-term about these inspections? Because the other one, I'm trying to remember, there's something like every 4 years, like an ultrasonic rail thing that we have to do to ping all the rail to see if there are cracks. So that's a 4-year thing. And then the bridge is a whole another matter with NDOT, right? I think it's every 2 years. Maybe that's 4 too. But anyway, we'll have to figure out all these inspections again moving forward. Yeah, Michelle, you had a question.
Would he be able to give you a rough idea of if we would wrap in some maintenance and extend it for 3 years so that we could discuss it at the retreat? Because just kind of blind.
So, like, do this one today and then get an idea of a multi-year, what that might look like in advance of the retreat. Yeah, certainly. I can ask Jim and his boss to maybe put something together. Yeah, and then wrap in other pieces for the other inspections too, where we're partially, I think, responsible for doing things. So yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll definitely ask him about that. Does anybody have any other questions on this particular contract? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion on this item?
Sure. I move to approve the contract with Wood Rogers as presented.
Thank you, Leah, for that motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
You want to take public comment?
Come on up, Denny. Just identify yourself for the record. Yeah.
Denny French, Carson City. Thank you very much, Chair. My consideration on here is the inspection timing. Certainly for the bridges and such, those times seem far apart. I don't know how often you inspect the line in its general state, just the actual track area, and that was a question I had. But is that before every run type deal, like the airport has to check their, runways and such? Or how do you
Denny,
do
that's
that?
yeah, that's independent of this contract.
Right, but
we
I just-
do rail inspections.
It was
before.
related to rails, so I
Yeah.
thought, good time to bring it up. Thank you.
Yeah, our maintenance, Chris Ratter, Battleborn, handles all of the inspections that take place before the trains are running. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you bet. Any further discussion? So we had a motion, second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, motion carries unanimously. Okay, then I think we will just proceed. Let's move on to 10. We're going to have somebody present the audit, though, to us. As long as somebody comes on, yeah, from Casey Nealon, that would be great. So, and then they can just kind of walk us through the highlights because it's their audit of us. So I don't think it would be right if I'm walking us through the audit. So let's, see if Ewing can come on to the, it's what? Yeah, agreed. Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, can you see? I mean, otherwise, I don't know if Nikki or, well, I'm not sure who else would come on, but thank you for double checking. Clay, are you okay if we move on to 10 then? Okay, so let's do this. We're a little bit out of order still, but we'll move on to agenda item 10 for possible action, discussion, and possible action regarding authorization to Vice Chair Clay Mitchell to research and report back on potential funding sources for the V&T Commission. If I may, Clay, I'm just going to turn this item over to you and let you take it from here.
Yeah, absolutely.
you.
Thank you. So over the last year or so, we've had quite a few conversations, Stephanie and I, and some of our constituent jurisdictions about with different people at the state and other possibilities to provide some support for this commission, given the structural restrictions that we have. And those so far haven't really yielded any sort of clear path. There are some things going forward. And there is a BDR that's going to be that's being presented by Carson City, asking the legislature to take a look at this commission and to look at, are we operating the way we should? Are we meeting our mandate? Are there things that we should have, need to have, so on and so forth, and kind of to look at the future. In the meantime, I thought that in the meantime, we might as well make the best of it and try to make sure that we are as successful as possible as an operation. And so I feel like we've coming out of the shutdowns and things. We kind of ramped back in, took it easy. Doesn't mean it was easy, right? Lots of work to do, but and have kind of ramped up what's going on. And we've been fairly successful at that. We'll be talking about the audit, but it looks like, our balance is fairly healthy and so on and so forth. And so one of the opportunities that kind of came to my mind was to start looking around and to see if there are other funding sources that we may qualify for. And there's a little bit of ambiguity there because we are in some ways a subdivision of the state. We're created by the legislature, but we have assets, but those were paid for by taxes from local jurisdictions. So there's a little bit of ambiguity there. And I think the hope is that the legislature can help clarify that to some extent. They may not want to, and in which case it may, down the road, we may need to look at the Attorney General's office or someone to help clarify. But some of my other assignments have me going to interact with congressional delegations. And my thought was, if I could piggyback conversations about this body onto some of that, there may be funding sources that are available. I talked to the county's federal lobbyist, and they said we can think of a couple of things you may qualify for. But it's not a quick, they laughed because I kind of made it, I said, we're looking for something in the meantime. And they took that as I'm looking for a quick fix. And they laughed at me talking about the federal government as a quick fix, right? Yeah, I know. We'll bring them along and show them how it's done. So anyway, what I asked for was an agenda item today to see if the commission would consider empowering me to look into these things. Now, nothing's going to happen quickly. We don't have any sort of budget set aside for any sort of activities along these lines. The kind of the general path would be, if the commission approves this item, is that then I'd start looking more specifically at what programs we might qualify for. There was a note made by the lobbyists that we would need to have some grant writing capabilities, most likely. There are other potential funding sources that are not grants, but that's something that we would have to look at as well. And so what I envision is, if I'm authorized, I'd start looking at what those potential funding sources may be, hopefully to have a general idea of that by the time of our retreat coming into next year. So that's something that we can discuss and decide then as we head into budget season, whether it's something that we want to pursue further and figure that out. So that's really kind of the goal. There's nothing that would happen right away, but it would be authorizing me to look into these, get a little more details on them, and then bring them back so that we can discuss if that's something we want to put some effort and potentially some money into trying to acquire some other funding sources. And to some extent, the programs will have parameters around what they can be used for. And so I don't have a clear idea of, I want to go after something for this or for that, but there may be transportation dollars, there may be tourism dollars. There are a lot of different things that are maybes. My feeling is, because I have other responsibilities to do this, if we do decide to go forward with it, I can piggyback it onto things I'm already doing, if that's the right way to do it. And so it would allow for kind of a cheap and quick way to be able to do those things without having to set up a full apparatus behind it. And basically just to piggyback on anything else that I'm doing as far as lobbying or looking at funding programs. So.
Yeah, please.
Comment on it. First of all, you had me at cheap and quick. And Dave and I have talked about this a lot. A part of the significant portion of our operating loss is depreciation. And so anytime we can look into ways to get capital improvements of any kind, that's what I would be most interested in looking at with you going forward to do this kind of stuff. I know you can't say where and how the funds would be, but that I would definitely be interested in looking at that kind of stuff.
Any other comments or questions for Clay? I just, Michelle, please. Yeah, go ahead.
I think once Clay comes back, I would be all in favor of hiring somebody to keep an eye on things. And I know somebody who's looks at the Federal Register all the time and would be open to looking for us if we ever get to that point as a paid consultant. But I think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Excellent. Thank you. Stephanie, any comment? And I really appreciate Clay offering to do this because obviously he has a lot going on behalf of Story County when he is going back to DC for these meetings. But the fact that you're there and willing to bring this up, I really appreciate that. So I'm 100% behind. We don't know what we don't know, right, without exploring some things. And I do realize we're kind of in the same position as Visit Carson City because we're like a sub-government, and every time we look at something, we're somehow ineligible for the grants, right? So trying to explore, okay, what are we and aren't we even able to be a part of as far as a grant program or non-grant program, just funding-wise? Where do we fit in, as this political subdivision of the state of Nevada? It'd be nice to have some ideas going into our retreat for sure. That'll help us with our budget preparation as well. So, this is great, Clay. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of my thoughts, the thing that got me thinking along these lines is that we've done well. We're not profitable standalone, but we are in the black considering the subsidies that we receive, and so if that continues, the question is, do we just keep piling that money up, or do we look to deploy it somehow? And I think that would be a great conversation for our retreat as well, is maybe coming up with some ideas or policies around what's a reasonable amount of reserves to have. And that would then tell us, what do we have to either use as seed money to go get more money for capital improvements or whatever? What do we have to put into more advertising so we ramp up and get more from operations? And kind of looking at along those lines. I don't have any clear idea about what grant writing capacity would look like. We know we don't really have the capacity to have employees, but we could contract for that. There may also be discussions with the constituent jurisdictions to see if we could piggyback on to their grant writing capabilities. And I realize that there's sensitivity around burdens on the local jurisdictions, and we want to be very sensitive about that. But there could be a way we may not need a full-time person, but it may be something along the lines of, hey, we've identified 2 or 3 a year, 1, 2, 3 a year that we want to go after, and find a way to add it to an interlocal or something like that. So there are a lot of different structures and ways that it could take. I also know that Mark Amity loves the V&T, as our congressman, and I don't know if we don't really know what's going to happen with the new administration and the change in Congress, and that there have been appropriations over the last 4 years. Will that stay? Will it go away? We don't really know. So there's still some unknowns, but certainly I think it's worth looking into. So.
I think this is great. It's an opportunity, right? So awesome. Any other comments or questions or anything for Clay on this one? Anybody
Make a motion.
make a motion? Yeah, no, thank you.
I move to authorize Vice Chair Mitchell to research and report back on potential funding sources for the V&T Commission at no cost to the commission.
Thank you for that motion, Leah. Do I have a second?
I second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on item 10? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Clay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
You're ready to rock and roll. I love it. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Well, while we wait for her to get on, I just want to keep moving on the agenda, if that's all right. So we'll come back again to 8, I promise you. You are all here for the audit, I know. We'll move on to our discussion-only items under 11. So let's go ahead and take up 11A, Executive Assistant Update. Sherry, take it away, please.
Good morning. Well, as you all know, Polar Express is running and going great. Almost sold out. Candy has numbers, I'm sure. I have scheduled out the meetings for 2025. We will be sticking with our fourth Wednesday of the month here in the Robert Kroll Boardroom. except for two. Because of NACO, we've scheduled the September meeting to be Thursday, September 25th at 1 o'clock. And in November,
One?
think
I'm
the
sorry,
4th,
1 p.m.?
Can we,
1
yeah, can
p.m.
we take that one up first before well, November, yeah, we basically, because of the way Thanksgiving falls again, we just have it the Wednesday before. So I figured everybody'd be
Correct.
okay with that. But we looked at the NACO schedule for September and it looks like it's the exact same situation as 2 months ago. So we didn't know if that would work. I don't know where the meeting is though. So you guys might have to help us with the September one if that's going to work, or if we have to actually try to go to Friday. But I was hoping it was maybe local enough to where, but I don't know.
I'm not sure they've decided yet, but I think they're deciding this week, and I didn't know what the dates were. But if you were able to confirm that, then
Yeah, well, at least I saw that it was the same week as when our
Okay.
meeting would be. So I was wondering if it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday through like the lunch hour again or not. But that part I don't know. But
Typically Tuesday, Wednesday is kind of the core of it. And they're pretty consistent about that week of the year, if you will.
okay,
But I have a feeling it probably won't be close.
okay.
They tend to move it around, so.
So you guys would not be available potentially then even on Thursday. So maybe we have to, oh, go ahead.
Can I throw
Yeah,
another
please,
wrench in
yeah.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
Virginia City has, I know Thursday's not that crazy, but the afternoons get a little hectic up there because we have street vibes.
Ah,
So 1 p.m. on a Thursday before
gonna
that may
work.
not be great for me.
okay. What do you guys want to do then as far, November I think is easy. Everybody's okay with like the Wednesday before, but it just, what do we want to do about September's meeting then? I feel like we need to have that meeting. I don't think we can just skip over it, especially we'll have released Polar, right? And so we'll
Can we
wanna-
do it the week before? No.
the week before? What,
Should we, I mean, can we table this until we get closer and find out where the meeting is and where we stand?
yeah, maybe retreat.
yeah, and is that okay if, if we do that? And then I think what I would suggest or recommend, Sherry, you'll have to talk with the team here just to see what our options even are for a meeting in the room
In
in
September.
September.
Right.
Yeah. Is that
And
all
I
right?
I was
Okay.
able to confirm this date, but I'm sure we can change it this
I mean,
far.
I don't think it, not that we need to table it because it's discussion only, we're just receiving a report, but I don't think it hurts to leave it for now, and then if we
Okay.
need to make a at least then we've got something, and then if we need to make a change,
Yeah.
we can make a change. But
Okay, because then we can get it on the notices.mv, get it on our website at least, have something up, and then we can, modify the state's website. Okay, fair enough.
And sorry, what was that date? The
Thursday,
I think it's
Thursday,
the
September 25th
at
at
1
1 p.m.
And what is the November? Was that you said, is that still the 20th? or is that the
November
19th?
is the 19th,
19th,
November
okay.
19th. Yes.
The 19th, okay. Okay. So we'll just kind of run with it, and then let's get some other dates of availability, I think, for September.
Okay.
But would you prefer that Sherry looks at the week before? Or is that problematic for anybody? Just to give Sherry some guidance.
I'm okay on the week before,
Okay,
but it's also
Is
a
everybody-
year from now, so.
yeah.
Right.
Your schedule could change, man. Yeah, your dance card books up, we know that, yeah. But that would be the week of the 15th, then of September, if we looked at the week before.
right,
Is
and the
that-
18th is a board meeting, so that
Okay,
date wouldn't work.
so not
but-
the 18th.
But the other
Okay.
days that week may be fine.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah. Clay and Michelle with that, or
I'd prefer the mornings.
mornings, okay.
Okay.
And then Clay, did you have,
yeah, I'm just not sure. I may have Vegas Chamber flying into DC around that
Okay.
time of year, so
okay,
I might have to remote in regardless, but
okay. Okay.
we'll make it work.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you. All right, well, does that give you a little bit of direction on this? one,
sure.
Sherry? Okay, and then do you want to you mind just chatting about retreat
The
workshop?
Yes.
Okay.
Loosely thinking about the retreat February 7th. That's a Friday. People, is everyone available?
They're scrolling,
Oh.
Sherry, through their telephonic mobile devices to see what their busy calendars look like.
I'm good as long as, I have ABA in Philadelphia that week, but I should be back on Thursday, so I should be okay.
Okay. How does everybody else
I'm
feel?
fine on a Friday.
Okay.
Oh, great.
For you?
Should
Like-
be all right, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I know that's it's kind of in between, but
Suzanne can't get in.
okay. So, but she's driving here.
I don't know.
Oh.
But that's all she said.
So Suzanne can't get into the meeting. I wonder if she could just call in.
Or if she's on her way.
Or maybe she is on her way.
Let me ask her.
Yeah, because I feel like timing wise, because you'll have the meetings, Clay, in March, right, for DC, but also we're going to want to be starting on the budget in February as well, so we can get ahead of that, especially if we're going to be reinvesting, right, and using some of those reserve funds. I think the sooner we get a jump start on that. And then I'm out of pocket for a part of February myself, so can we hold with that
Yeah,
date? for now?
I may not be able to go all the way till 5, but
Okay, well, 4:30 is fine. I mean, we'll try to do the important stuff before you leave. Okay.
It's parking right now, so she'll
Oh,
be here
perfect.
in a
Okay.
second.
Oh, good. Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, then let's roll with everything as planned.
Okay,
and-
great.
Yeah.
And I'll-
Okay. Appreciate that. Thanks, everybody, for helping us get everything squared up for next year. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add, Sherry? I apologize for cutting you
Unless
off.
you have
early.
questions for me.
Any questions? Make them difficult.
Where
Yeah.
is the retreat gonna be? Do we know yet?
I was going to try the hub
Okay.
still again.
Okay. Their tea is great, so yeah, no, that's great if that works. And
Okay.
if you guys want to host something up in Virginia City too.
In
you know,
February? Probably not a great idea.
You know, it's a beautiful time of the year up there.
pick you up.
I don't want you driving on those roads.
I was gonna take a snowmobile.
Perfect. All right, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so no additional questions for Sherry. All right, cool.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Great work to get EX off the ground. And I must say, and I know Candy's going to come and talk, but the depot looks amazing. I mean, the backdrops, everything, just really, really cool.
Right.
So yeah, thank you for getting everything squared up. So okay, well, with that, we'll move on to 11B, Operations Trains Report. Candy's in for Tom. So come on up. Thank you, Candy.
Good morning. As you all know and are aware, because most of you were there, or somebody in your family was, we had a good first weekend. That first night was the roughest, but all the rest of them went much better than that. We were much more organized. So it's been fun so far. One of the things that's really been great this year is we did offer that trip protection. So if people buy that, they have 48 hours to cancel. And with the weather coming in, I've been getting some cancellations, but the good news is every single seat that's been canceled within an hour resells. So that's been working really nice, and it takes a lot of angst off my shoulders with people crying because they can't come and they want me to give them their money back, and so that's worked out really well. And as everything else is going really well, we have a good crew working there, and I've only had one complaint because the train wasn't a steam engine like in the movie, but other than that, everything's just been going great. So, yeah, no problems. And I know Tom's working on the sound for the Ardell May has a buzz, and he's been working really hard to get rid of that. And I understand that maybe that's what's going on this week up there. So, no problems so far.
And next year, Tom will have it fly.
Oh, yeah, we'll fly over a frozen lake next year.
Yeah, if it's not,
Like
I'm
in the
never
movie.
participating again until it does that. It needs to be exactly like the movie.
So,
I thought the village looked really nice.
Mhm.
yeah, it does look good, doesn't it? Yeah.
Everything was great.
Yeah, we need a few more decorations outside. Tom and I have been talking about that. He's going to put more lights up around the outside of the building. And then maybe next year we can ask that decorator to do something a little more outside. Because it kind of looks like sort of disappointing before you walk in and see the magic. So, yeah.
I'll double what you all said. I mean, I think the inside was great. Those backdrops were awesome. The comments that have been coming in, I've been sharing them with the team, just lovely. And at the end of the day, for Polar Express, it's all about families. It's all about kids and creating this amazing experience for them. And based on the comments that I received, it was good to get feedback from tourism peers because they're very critical, right? I don't know what that is about our colleagues, Leah, but they were very honest in their assessment. But I would say like 90% of the comments were really positive. They enjoyed the experience. And I think Carla changing up the scripting a little bit and the music and the singing and the, freshening it up is great. I mean, that gives you a reason, I think, to come back year after year if you know that there'd be something a little bit different, for you and your family and your kids. So good stuff. Yeah. So thank you on the Polar Express.
Yeah, we also, we did get a nice thank you this morning from one of the firefighter families, and saying how magical it was for their little kids and how much they loved it.
Good.
So that was really great. That was the highlight of the opening night, was the 8 o'clock train, because all the firefighters were so grateful and so sweet. So it was.
They were very patient as well. 'cause
Yeah, they were. They didn't
Yeah.
even care.
just a little behind
late, yeah.
A little bit.
for that
They didn't
8 o'clock run, right? So
were
I
having
appreciate their
fun.
patience, and it was
Yeah.
great to acknowledge those folks for the great work they did on the Davis fire. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Did we get any kind of social posts or pictures of that?
I think there was something on Facebook.
Okay. I hadn't
Yeah,
looked yet,
I
so.
took them on my camera.
Okay.
And then I had to
As
get
long as
them.
we have 'em,
Yeah,
just
I had to
for-
get them to Lydia, to get them to Regina.
Yeah.
With all the airdropping.
I mean, it
all
doesn't
that
have to
stuff,
necessarily
so.
be posted. I just would like to have those as
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that
We had the sign up and it was perfectly displayed, and then whew, down it came in a big heap right on the floor. So we wound up having to put it in front of the back of the train, right, and attach it over there. But I still think it worked because everybody, at least on that inside line, could see it. So, but yeah, it was not sticking to the wall, unfortunately. No matter how much tape we used, down it was coming. So yeah, awesome. Any other questions on operations? Anything with PEX for Candy? Great work. Keep it rolling. So thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, we're gonna go back to 8. So with that, let me open up agenda item 8 for possible action, discussion, possible action regarding the V&T Commission's fiscal year 2024 annual audit report and financial statements. So we have Suzanne here. I just want to point out for the record, late material was posted to the website, and it is in the back of the room. And Suzanne, I'm just going to let you take it away. Okay, please. Thank you.
Hi, Suzanne Olson for the record. In the financial statements, first I'd like to apologize for uprooting your morning. Thank you for being patient and reaching out. In the financial statements, in the back of the financial statements, the very last letter, it is on page
Sherry, could you put that up?
page 21 of the paper. It's probably going to be, yep, you're in the right spot. Go up just a little bit more to the top of the letter, yep. All right. This is the communications letter that we provide to governance at the conclusion of our audit. It states, or it provides this, any significant audit matters that we encounter during the audit, and it also provides a listing of any adjustments that are needed to update the books and records so that they agree with our where we landed with the audit. I'm just going to kind of go through this letter and hit the highlights. So for significant accounting matters, looking at the qualitative aspects of the accounting practice, this year there was a new GASB standard that was effective. It was GASB standard, or GASB statement number 100 for accounting changes and error corrections. And there was not an impact to the board or to the commission's financial statements for this year. So going forward, if we do have to report any accounting changes and errors, we will use GASB 100 as our standard. And as that was the only change to your significant accounting policies, you'll find that change noted in Note 1 along with the other significant accounting policies. We noted no transactions that were entered into by the commission during the year for which there was a lack of any authoritative guidance or consensus, and we noted that all significant transactions were recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. As far as accounting estimates go, you do have a couple of sensitive accounting estimates that we identified during the audit. They're the same estimates that you've had in prior years, so there's nothing new to report there. But those accounting estimates are management's estimate of the collectability of accounts receivable, management's estimate of useful life of capital assets, and then in those two estimates, we evaluate the key factors and assumptions used to develop the estimate of collectability and depreciation in determining that it is reasonable in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole. The financial statement disclosures themselves are presented in a neutral, consistent, and clear manner. During the audit, we did not actually experience, well, actually, it's not really, that doesn't pertain, I apologize. We did not experience any difficulties during our audit. We did have a couple of audit findings, but they're different than the ones from last year. There was definitely the information that we received to audit from, we got more timely, and it was definitely more, I'm going to say put together, but I can't think of a better word at the time. It was just much easier to audit. So I want to say thank you to everyone who participated in getting us that information, including Jennifer. And then the corrected and uncorrected misstatements. So, or there were no uncorrected misstatements, but the corrected misstatements, primarily the corrected misstatements are getting your financial statements from cash to accrual basis for audit purposes. And so the goal would be to figure out a solution, and this is what one of the primary findings is about. The goal would be to figure out a solution to get those journal entries booked at the end of the year so that there's not material adjustments that have to be recorded by the auditors. And that would clear that finding. So these adjustments have been provided to Jennifer and to Sherry, and they'll need to be updated and reconciled to the audited trial balance. As far as disagreements with management, we didn't have any. The management representation letter will be dated as of today and provided so that we can issue the final report once we receive it. We did not have to seek any external advice or guidance from any other independent accountants, nor did we have to get management consultation. We kind of already talked a little bit about the findings, and I'll bring them up again in just a minute. The other matters talks about the statement of the RSI required supplementary information. Your RSI is presented as the management's discussion and analysis part, which is at the first part of the audit. And then it's also the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, budget to actual report that's presented. And that budget to actual report is presented based on the presentation that you provide to the Department of Taxation. So it will look a little bit different than what you see in the actual financial statements themselves. Restriction on use. This information is intended solely for the information and use of management and the Commission's Board of Commissioners, and is not intended to be and should not be used by anyone other than these specified parties. So that is our required communication. The one thing that I wanted to point out is that you do have an unqualified opinion, which is the highest level of opinion that we can provide in your engagement. And if you'll scroll up just past that letter, go up to the first page past that letter. One more. There you go. So the findings can be found on page 20 of the paper copy. Of the financial statements. And there are two findings. The first finding has to do with the material adjustments. And as I mentioned, it's just putting some procedures in place or making it could be as simple as making a request change to see if Jennifer can add to her agreement with the board and book those journal entries, those accrual or cash to accrual journal entries. Or there could be another solution that would work for you. I'm not sure, but it's to find something, to find a process or a procedure that you can put in place to reduce the amount and the magnitude of the journal entries that are being recorded in audit. And that's the way you can get rid of that audit finding. The second finding has to do with last year, there was a change from one payroll or payment processing company to another payment processing company, and some sales tax got collected. And so the commission is working on resolving that issue. It is disclosed in your footnotes. The finding is just, it's a compliance issue because as the commission and per statute, you're not supposed to collect sales tax. So this finding is just identifying that there weren't internal controls in place to identify when it occurred. So I think the views of responsible officials was that the commission agrees with this finding. The commission is currently working with the Department of Taxation to address and rectify the inadvertent collection of sales tax. What I do want to put on here is this is a compliance finding. It wasn't a material dollar amount, so it does not have an actual financial statement impact. So it is just a compliance finding, and the commission is working diligently to figure out a solution on rectifying that with the Department of Taxation. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Suzanne. Are there any questions for Suzanne? I have a couple, if I may. Specific to 2024-001, when you're saying that we should look at getting the journal entries booked at the end of the year, do you mean like after June 30, like in the month of July, we would try and fix everything before things get closed?
Yes.
Okay.
So accruals happen, for example, payables is an example. You will receive invoices for payment in July that pertain to June, and they need to be accrued back into June. That's an
Right.
example.
Okay.
One of the adjustments that was recorded this year had to do with the payable that was due to Story County, and there was board minutes that on both sides that had indicated that was forgiven.
Yeah.
And so in that instance, that's an entry that could be recorded at the end of the year so that we don't have to, it didn't come up during our audit in our review of the board minutes.
Got you. So what do we do though? Because I also feel sometimes we don't get invoices until August, it seems as well, but they're for services rendered through June 30. So,
And that's going to happen sometimes. You have a cutoff, and you guys can agree as a commission as to what that cutoff is.
okay.
Sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's 15 days. It depends on what your cycle is.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I mean, to maybe help if we could do something along those lines, like maybe for all services rendered through June 30 or the month of June, we give people the middle of July in order to ensure that we can get the bills, we get them put in on the last check run, for July with Story County. I'm hoping that might help alleviate some of these adjustments, that we're having to make. And so.
One of the things I will say is we did not have to do a lot of reclassification adjustments this year. That was done, and I believe in the correspondence that I saw in the file, I believe that you worked with Jennifer, Sherry, I say you, Sherry
Yeah.
worked with
Yeah.
Jennifer to make that happen before we started auditing, so that was helpful.
Agreed, yeah. No, I think we're refining it and maybe just a couple more tweaks, you know. I mean, we don't have our own fiscal staff, right? So, you know, Sherry and Jennifer are our people, and I know we put a big burden on them. But if we can maybe make these adjustments and work with our vendors to hopefully get the invoices from them sooner than later, I think that will help, so.
Yeah.
And I'm not missing anything else on that particular one. I don't think. I would like to just say for the record on the sales tax situation, confirmed, Sherry was able to provide me with screen captures with the, is it Cloverdale or? Clover, just Clover point of sale system, that we did not have the tax in place for this current Polar Express, right?
Right,
So
that's
we
been
corrected
remedied.
that, situation from last year. And then I would like to just, you mentioned we did get the freight depot situation figured out. I want to thank Clay and your peers on the Story County Commission on that end. So that's been absolved, and that's no longer like on our books, so to speak, you know, from a potential debt obligation. And then my last question is, and I think I asked this last year, but in light of some conversation you weren't privy to before, Suzanne, before you came in, we were talking about using some of our, I guess, reserves or money that we have in the bank with Wells Fargo to reinvest in our efforts, whether that's transportation, capital, marketing, whatever the case may be. But I just want to make sure that that dollar amount is on page 9. Is that the $978,755? That's basically, I'm going to say reserve, but that's our, I guess, our cash on hand as of the end of fiscal '24. So if we go into our workshop, our retreat, and we're looking at maybe investing some of the dollars that we have in the bank, that's
Yes.
our number to start with?
Yes,
Yeah,
that,
okay.
that was your cash balance
Okay.
as of 6:30.
Which I feel, guys, that's up from 6 something, I think, at the end of fiscal '23.
Yeah, it's right there.
Or maybe it was 7, okay, 7 something. So where is it? Did I miss it? Okay, so I mean, that's a good thing, right? I mean, I think we have an opportunity here, like you said, Clay, to,
If you were to look at page 5 of the PDF, or of the paper, which is probably around page 7 of the PDF, your current asset balance is a fair reflection of prior year to current year. It is kind of lumped together.
okay.
But it does kind of give you an idea of your prior year to current year. That includes your inventory and your AR though, so.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, I mean, thank you. I mean, Jennifer, thank you, Suzanne, and Yeween, I appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and we're getting better each year, right? So I like forward progress on things, so. Yeah, Leah has a couple of things.
I don't have a couple of things. I just have one comment.
Just one? Oh.
I need that shirt that says this really is my first rodeo. So this was my first rodeo with being the treasurer and going through the audit process. And I just want to thank Jennifer and Suzanne and all your staff for bearing with my really stupid questions that I had.
No question is stupid,
I was going
Leah.
to say, I think isn't the saying, an unasked question is the stupid
There we go.
question or
All
something
right,
like
well, I
that?
asked a lot of questions, so we should be.
My long-distant uncle Plato taught us, he who is afraid to ask questions is afraid to learn, I believe.
But my point is, everybody was really accommodating to me when I did have questions about things that I even had to call Dave and have him talk me through a couple things because I was just like, wait, I can't wrap my brain around this. So thank you
You're
for
very
being
welcome.
patient with me. So that's all I wanted to say.
Great, yeah. All right, go ahead, Michelle, please.
Kind of following up on your question, Dave, about the reserves, we were talking about possibly using some. Is there a best practice percentage for use?
That is a good question. And I've seen different policies for different reasons. I would say it needs to be a factor of your operating expenses. Um, And I would say that I think I've seen a factor of 3, 2, or I think it's been more than 2. I think it's been 3 or higher. But that may be something that, yeah, I could probably look into that a little bit more and give you a more substantive answer, but I'm thinking that it needs to be a factor of your operating expenses.
Okay.
And your operating expenses meaning, because your operating expenses fluctuate. So yeah, so it's gonna be kind of looking at it on an annual basis, calculating down to a monthly amount. Yeah, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I can get you some more information on that. I was trying to compare what I was thinking about when you asked that question was what organization, company, or board that I've worked on that would be kind of comparable to what you do, and I don't have another one, so.
Are you saying we're unique?
You're unique.
We're a unicorn?
So, so it might be looking at like what Story County does or like what Carson City does and that sort of thing, and kind of coming up with something that would work for your cash flows, because your cash flows are very flexible. So, does that make sense? I don't think I answered your question, but I think we can come to a consensus, and I can give that to Dave.
Thank you.
That's great. Jennifer, are you comfortable with the rewording of the first finding?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute.
No, that's okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay, any
I
questions?
just would like to acknowledge that I think that the journal entries over the years have significantly decreased. And
I would agree.
as Dave said, that this is something that we continually work on every year. Unfortunately, Story County has a very small financial office, and we're kind of limited, and some of these journal entries are going to unfortunately continue to fall on the auditor as just because of time constraints and personnel constraints.
And that can be the commission's response to that finding. As long as the commission is okay with the finding and they understand what the purpose of it is, your response can be that this is a small commission, your resources are limited, and that you feel that the processes, you're okay letting the auditors make those adjustments. That can be your stance. We have small boards, we have small state and local government funds, we have small funds that do say that, and they're okay with that. So you just have to make that decision.
Do you need us to tell you that now or for the future? or-
Before we issue the
Before we issue
final,
the
if
final,
you
okay.
want to make a change to the views that are on there,
Sure.
we can definitely do that.
How do you all feel about that? Because that is true. It's not like Jennifer has 20 people working for her. It's a small office, a small county, and
And I need her to do VC stuff.
yeah, Leah feels that VCTC business is more important than that of the V&T Railway Commission, which Jennifer would probably
I wouldn't
disagree
say
with.
more important, just more consuming.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer, for clarifying. That says a lot about Leah. Thank you.
It really does.
Appreciate that.
I will 100% agree with her on that, yes.
I mean, I think that's fair and it's honest. And I mean, we're not.
Agreed.
So I don't know. Are you comfortable if you just would need us in a motion? We're approving, but then identifying
Making the change.
making the change on 24001. Okay, which I think is a fair assessment of the situation. I mean, I do think, Jennifer, do you agree if we can probably tackle some of these if we get out in front of our vendors and get them to invoice us for the June services in a more timely manner, being in July, not August? That will help with some of them, right?
Yeah, that will. That isn't really, if you were to analyze these adjustments, I
I
don't
guess
think
there's not
that
a
was a
lot.
huge dollar amount this year.
You're right. I guess you're right.
The biggest one was the inventory adjustment from last year to this year, because we had that finding for the inventory last year.
Oh,
A Story County cancellation of debt.
Yes.
The,
and the parking lot, I guess, for the capital improvements
yep,
to
the
do the
parking lot.
paving and everything and
Yep,
yeah, all
mhm,
of that. So you're
yep.
right. That's, yeah.
So,
That's,
and then depreciation
And
is
that's,
always going to be a huge one. But
yeah.
yeah,
We're kind of
so
stuck with that
you're
one.
kind of stuck with that
Mhm.
one.
Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say, if Suzanne, I didn't realize that you would prefer that I do the capital outlay items. I know our county auditor prefers to look at each of our capital investments, which are much larger, and move forward on that light. So I can certainly, those three, I can certainly tackle. The Story County payable was obviously something that I missed and should have been done right after it was approved. So we've kind of narrowed it down by 3, and that's a
Yeah.
good chunk.
That's a good chunk.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. No, that's great. Cool. Okay. Anybody have?
One
Oh,
other
go ahead.
thing I'd like to just insert with your cash balance and how much you would like to invest. Story County, and I believe other smaller counties, tend to use 3% of the previous year's expenses. But knowing that you guys have a very unique business, it would really take some time, I think, for you to review on how much money you would have to have if you utilized every penny to start up again in the summer. So I wouldn't want you to use a hard, fast percentage to drop that cash down to.
Fair. Fair.
Just my opinion.
Yeah. No, thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead, Clay.
if the $250,000 from Story County came in before June, it might help. It might help smooth things for us. I don't know if the timing is something that can be considered, but there may be downsides to that.
Yeah. Okay. No, fair enough. Anybody have any other questions on the financial statements? All right. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know you got to go.
I do.
She has 3 of these inside of an hour. So what? Or 4. Gee, willikers, sir. Thank you. All right. If there are no further questions, if somebody would like to make a motion on agenda item 8, that would be super. Or not.
Hold on, I'm just working on a modification on that.
Oh, that's
finding.
right. Okay, yeah. Okay, no, fair enough. We'll give Clay the next 7 to 12 minutes to formulate something. It's grandiose in nature.
It's not that, just functional. Okay, I think hold on. Is what we were discussing entries or adjustments? Was it adjustments?
I think so, yeah, adjustments.
Well,
Fiscal year, journal entries for
Journal
corrections, 2-year end
entries.
adjustments.
Yeah, and adjusted entries, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Adjusted entries?
Hmm?
Little of each?
Uh,
Sprinkle a little this, a little
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Jennifer, just to clarify what Clay, I don't know if you heard Clay, what we're talking about is potentially changing the 2-0.
Yeah, let me I'll just read
Okay.
what I have written, and if we need to, before I
Perfect,
make the
okay.
motion, if we need to.
Go for it.
So my motion, I'm anticipating will be to approve with the one change of the view of responsible officials under 2024-001 to state that due to the size and capacity constraints of our contract fiscal provider, we acknowledge the finding and will work with Jennifer McCain to reduce the adjusted entries needed and accept that some will continue to be made by our auditors.
We have a motion.
Well, that was a trial balloon.
Oh, I thought it was
That was if I
beautiful.
were to make a
Oh,
motion.
if
This
you
is
were to
what it
make
would
one.
sound
Gee,
like.
Willigers, he's stalling for time. We're back to bureaucracy. So, Jennifer, does that read right to you?
That sounds fine to me, yes.
Okay.
All right.
Anybody have any concerns about that prospective proposed potential motion? Okay, go ahead, Clay.
So moved.
I second the
Thank you
motion.
for changing that.
Oh my God. All right. We have a motion. We have a second. That was Commissioner Schmitter that seconded. Shamar, sorry. Any further discussion on this particular item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, everybody, for the help, Leah.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it very much. All right, with that, we are going to pick up 11C, which is our next meeting, right here in this building, Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025 at 9 a.m. With that, we'll move on to agenda item 12, commissioner comments or announcements and requests for information. We won't take any action, but does anybody have anything that they would like to share, say, bring up for the good of the commission?
I just want to thank everyone for their hard work on Polar.
Mhm.
You know, so my wife and a couple of my kids are working Polar this year, and they made a comment that you know, there's something really kind of different or magical about that dress rehearsal run. And part of it may be that it's people who want to be there. Part of it may be that there's no sense of entitlement because, you know, people are not paying for it. They're not expecting value for their dollars.
Fine.
But they really, you know, despite the challenges of working out the kinks, it was easy to make that one good, they felt. Whereas it's a little more work to make everything else, you know, really have that right feeling. But anyway, thanks to everyone for the hard work on that.
And
Go ahead,
I'll
Leah.
second that. I was there on that run, and I made a sappy Facebook post about it, but it really is nice to see to be a little tiny part on this board to get that out there for our community, and it was wonderful. So thank you.
All I would like to say is you would have thought on that free night, Clay, when I was a parking attendant, that the tips might have been a little better. But alas, they were not. So my kids won't be getting Christmas presents this year, unfortunately. But a serious note, one quick update, website. We're through.
We just looked at the mood board.
Yes.
And it's gorgeous.
Yes.
So I'm
Really
really
cool.
excited with the colors and everything else that have been picked for that, and the fonts and everything. We should start getting more content specific things very shortly. But we have with the holidays and everything, it's kind of a little, but it is above or
Ahead of schedule.
it is ahead of schedule. So I'm really excited. That's my favorite thing to like nerd out on. So I've had a really good time looking at and doing this kind of stuff with Dave and the team.
It's been cool. Yeah, site mapping, then content. So the hope is we are ahead of schedule. I think we're going to have something to look at the January
Yes.
meeting. So yeah,
Good,
nice
yeah.
blend. Leah's the history piece, Michelle, you'll love her comments, right? And then having a very streamlined ticketing funnel, so to speak. You know,
Yeah.
like a
And
one-click
we really
type thing. And
broke down like the kind of groups, and I
Yes.
think I'm excited because we're going to be able to use it when we go to our retreat as kind of like a template of the things that we should be focusing on,
yes,
if that makes sense. So we'll be able to focus on the excursions and different types of rentals and stuff like that. So I'm excited.
yeah. And then Mahela, if I may, I did have a meeting yesterday with a member of KPS3 and Dan Thielen, who's the administrator of museums and history, and we actually talked about reciprocating, you know, with these 3 different rail excursion opportunities that we have, trying to get through the confusion and somebody thinking that they rode the V&T, but they were really at the Railroad Museum and vice versa and all that good stuff. And we are going to address the different experiences, including short line and opportunities with the thematic trains, Candy, that you and Tom run up on the top of the hill. And Dan offered to reciprocate. They are going through website redesign as well right now. So the timing is perfect. And then we did, just on the surface, readdress packaging, and the ability for somebody to maybe buy a museum pass or something along those lines, or a train pass, or whatever you want, rail excursion pass, allowing you to do all three, visit both museums. I know there's some challenges around that when it comes to the state and the money coming in, and then who are you cutting checks? Is it revenue out? Is it expenditure? But at least we've kind of reapproached the subject, and I know Dan would like to see how the session goes, right, and see just if the opportunity presents itself, comes up. There might have to be some discussion, obviously, with the board too, depending on who's collecting and all that good stuff. But I think this would be a really cool opportunity, to create a better visitor experience for people instead of what did somebody miss? And they either realize it, now they're upset. My team usually takes those phone calls, right, when they thought they rode the V&T and then realized, no, we were just at the Nevada State Railroad Museum, but we're not running that particular weekend that they're here, right? And the same thing happens if there's something that's not running at the museum as well. And so we'll look at some opportunities, I think, there for better partnering, collaboration, and sharing one another's experiences, right, on our websites, which I think are our biggest social media channels. So anyway, cool. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving, holidays, the whole 9 yards, because we won't see each other until January. With that, we'll move on to agenda item 13, our second and final public comment period. Come on up, Denny. Yeah.
Denny French, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the Polar Express. I'm so pleased that that's still happening. I haven't made it yet, but I will hopefully. I'm just not a cold weather person. KNVC is 95.1 FM radio, and Steve Funk, and I've been talking to him about different matters, and just getting to know the channel, finally found it on my radio, so I would encourage people. But I was wondering, do you have any advertisement through them? And also the next thing is, how did the train situation work as far as a movie connection? Did that ever happen, or is it still in the thoughts? Or I know Ms. Hicks was involved with getting some coordination on that, and I joked about wanting maybe a cameo in it, but seriously, I think film producers and such have been looking at Carson City and Reno as places to relocate some of their activities, and it would be great to have something done here, by a producer, directors and such, Hollywood-style productions, but just those things. And I just want to thank you all for your efforts. And I am a train enthusiast, but I haven't yet been back to the museum. I've been there at least twice, and I hope to again, because that's amazing. And then I gotten up to the station, and it wasn't in action that time. And in fact, there was really no one around. But I'm looking into that more, and I encourage others that are maybe hesitant too, to make sure you do, when you're able. Thank you. And have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. All right. Any other public comment? With that, we are adjourned.